What's up, Gigatrads and Tracies? It's your beloved monarch, Tradley. So, it's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah? Like, no, not a month, a year, I think, since I last posted. Um, yeah, we have many important topics to discuss, and I've honestly, I've been procrastinating. I've been in the world of platonic forms, but sometimes you got to get away from Mount Olympus. You got to stop pondering deep things. You got to return to base reality. And like when I hold this sword, it's like Theodoric's sword. Like I get that dog back in me. I return not only to my form, but to my essence. So anyways, I wanted to discuss, with recent events going on, immigration. And you might be asking yourself, but Tradley, I thought the point of this channel was to discuss timeless ideas and how to create a living, breathing human society that is neither left-wing nor right-wing, but something more ancient than that. You just answered your own question. I believe that young people can be united by a single solution. A solution that is in harmony with both the left's concerns for compassion and human well-being and the right's concerns for justice and national sovereignty. Because there's a cycle going on where transnational corporations like BlackRock will come into global South countries and extract resources and employ local people for, at very low living standards, poor living conditions. And then NGO cycles occur where these non-government organizations will actually perpetuate poverty with how they allocate their charity funds. And then proxy wars, of course, occur in the global South, fought between different Western countries or even other global South countries. And these facilitate a constant flow of refugees from the global South to the global North, which benefits these same transnational corporations who gain cheap labor in the form of either illegal immigrants who are unskilled and labor laws do not apply to them because they're not even documented, or legal immigrants who compete with the existing pool of applicants and imbalance the scale of power onto capital rather than labor. And I believe that deportations are simply a control valve. And because Republican and Democrat funders both benefit from undocumented labor and H-1Bs. And I'm sure for other countries too, all of the political parties receive funding from entities which something similar can be said of. Furthermore, immigrants who arrive in global North countries often feel alienated, both culturally and linguistically, and their children often feel they feel as if they're in between identities, like they don't quite fit in the home nation, but then they also still feel like a newcomer, a foreigner in the host country. There was one time I was at a Spanish mass, and the homily that was given, there was a Spanish homily, and then there was an English homily. And in the English homily, the priest was addressing the children of the parents who spoke Spanish. And he opened with, I know you, all of you kids out there may not always understand what your parents say, and you don't relate with your parents, and you may not also fully fit in school. And, it's the first time I'd heard that, I heard a sort of testimony like that. It was jarring, but, it's not coming from me. It's just as the sky is blue. You go to immigrant communities, and they will tell you that, there is that sort of sense of alienation. So what is the solution to this troublesome situation that we found ourselves in, in between a rock and a hard place? Well, I see folly in both perpetuating the cycle of immigration and then just going with deportation or remigration doesn't really fix the problem, because then the immigrants are back in their home countries where that are continuing to decline. And from there, they would either have the option to cut their losses short and live in a dangerous and poor country, or take the risk and try to get back into whatever the global north country was that they immigrated to. So I think a better solution would be, first of all, we need to reform the United States government. We need good people to infiltrate institutions. I don't think voting is the answer. I don't think that we can vote our way out of any situation, really. I've been around long enough that it seems the way that things really work in this country, in this political system, is it's money and it's personnel. So it's whoever the financial sources of power are, and then it's the people within the institutions. Those two variables are the primary movers behind all change that occurs within the United States. So please, if you are listening to this and you want a solution to happen, you want something good to come, I would seek economic power and institutional power. And then the second is, hopefully when we have a less corrupt government and society, then we could institute Marshall Plans. Just like in after the World Wars, Europe and Japan were in ruins. The United States didn't just take in tons of European and Japanese immigrants. That, in hindsight, that would have been ridiculous. We would have experienced massive overpopulation, and Japan and Europe would be probably still in shambles to this day. No, what we did instead is we gave European countries and Japan financial help, and it wasn't just a blank check. It was a comprehensive plan for rebuilding their economies. And, maybe if you're a socialist or whatever, you might have an issue with the Marshall Plan, like it benefited big companies more than it benefited small companies. Fair, but you know what I mean. In principle, the Marshall Plan was a good idea. And then the second solution is once that happens, once we rebuild global South countries and, do so in a way that is positive sum, like we build up their economies, and then now they are able to invest in our economy, and then we're able to invest back into their economy, and it creates a virtuous cycle. Once that happens, we need to be honest that many diaspora communities that are here are not here just because they really like America. No, the reason is because is mostly because of economic reasons and for personal safety. And they probably really want to be back in their ancestral homelands, just like we would. If the United States was hit by massive natural disasters and civil war, and then the Great Depression 2.0 hit, and we all went to Canada, we would want to be back in the United States as soon as the United States was repaired back to the way it was. So, with that being said, we should offer, return flights to any diaspora communities. Again, not as a oh, get out of here, but as a grace, of course, for as a sorry that transnational corporations destroyed your country. As a reparation, you can go back for free. And then we should also, the third solution is that we should exist in a more positive sum relationship with the ethnic diversity that we already have in the United States. Because as is, we have a pretty bad reputation in the United States for not taking and adding cultures, but rather just melting them into a single homogeneous solution. People forget with the melting pot analogy, they feel really warm and fuzzy talking about the melting pot model. But what melting pots do is they create a homogeneous solution, and a homogeneous solution is not diverse. We should follow a model like Switzerland, where Switzerland is basically the most stable example of ethnic diversity, in that unlike Brazil or Russia, it has not had internal ethnic conflict and genocide. But at the same time, there is no segregation within Switzerland. A German Swiss and an Italian Swiss and a French Swiss, they can go to any part of the country that they want to. But what is key is that they are allowed to settle where they like, and each part of Switzerland has its own institutions. So unlike in the United States, we have actually made it a top-down project to destroy the cultural diversity that we have internally. And that can be another video that I make in the future. In summary, I believe that the United States, Western countries in general, but the United States especially, should pivot from a model of immigration to Marshall Planning countries in need. And as these countries grow and recover, I believe that we should offer diaspora communities the chance to return back to their home countries by paying for their flights, not as like a get out of here or anything like that, but no, if these people are only here because their home countries were dangerous or poor, we shouldn't hold them hostage in the name of whatever ideological reasons. And all of this does involve going after the oligarchy, of course, because the real reason why immigration is allowed is because it is cheap labor, either cheap unskilled or cheap skilled labor for the oligarchy. And And then the last point is we should live in a more positive sum relationship with the diversity that already exists, the ethnic diversity that already exists. And what that would look like, yeah, it would look like Switzerland, or it would look like Middle Earth, or it would look like how cities looked in the United States before the World Wars, where there were ethnic neighborhoods that were allowed to create their own institutions, their own schools and libraries, and of course, not with the segregation and the lynching and all that stuff that existed before the World Wars. But you know what I mean. No forced, just because we don't have segregation or any of that bad historical stuff now doesn't mean that we don't have new negative things such as forced assimilation and homogenization. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Y'all get good trads and traces, better stay based and don't let the transhumanist, reptilian shape-shifting, vegan Mossad agents fluoridate your water and bulldoze your Shire into a Costco parking lot. The globalists assassinated Doge. They used aimbot to murk the Habsburg monarchy. Agartha is real. UFOs are fake. Nick Fuentes is a gay fed. Hitler and the Steen are up in Greenland. Klaus Schwab, bring it down.